What's going on, knuckleheads, and welcome to FightersRep's Best of 2023 video. In this video, I'm just basically going to tell you guys who I thought was Prospect of the Year, what I thought was Fight of the Year, and who I thought was Fighter of the Year in the Lion's Den in 2023. Obviously, these choices were not easy. We had a lot of new stars born. We had a lot of new champions crowned. Championships changed hands. And there was all kind of drama in the Lion's Den as usual. But that being said, I did come to this conclusion after a lot of thinking. And I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. And before we move on, I'm going to ask that you guys like this video, subscribe, and join the channel below. And be sure to share it with some friends. So without further ado, let's get right into it with our Prospect of the Year. Knuckleheads, in my opinion, Prospect of the Year for 2023 was without a doubt Dylan the Butcher Ludwig. And the reason I thought this guy was Prospect of the Year in 2023 is because he really turned his career around in 2023, a year where he was incredibly active, right? And what I mean by that was Dylan is a guy who was 0-2 in his first FightersRep fights before 2023, came into 2023, stopped Chaz Lewis at the beginning of the year, fought and beat a very dangerous Khosrov Sadarov in the middle of the year, and then went on to challenge for the super middleweight title at the end of the year against Joseph Parker. Now, even though he came up short in that fight, man, I really want to say that Dylan has not even come close to reaching his peak, and I'm not even sure what his fight weight is, right? Because when he did go 0-2, which is where I saw his talent, he fought Raymond Martinez and Cam Spencer at 185 pounds, a weight class, he basically had no business in, but he just showed so much potential in those fights. I knew he had something going on, and I knew with the right training or with the right regimen behind him, he'd be just fine, and he really showed he was more than just fine in 2023. I really thought that win over Khosrov Sadarov was one of the best wins of 2023. And again, even though he came up short against Joseph Parker, man, you really saw the size difference in that fight. And this is a guy who could probably continue to drop down in weight comfortably. So regardless of whether he stays at super middleweight or drops down to middleweight, whatever this guy does, this is a guy to watch out for. This is the guy, with the right mentality, with the right tool set, with the right camp behind him, with Pugilist Jim, Coach Thor, Coach Rage, great teammates out there that he's training with. And, I can really see Dylan Ludwig going very far in the fight game. So he's my Prospect of the Year. Tell me what you guys think below. There were other guys that also, kind of ran through my mind. I thought about Anthony Taufi, the way he came up and beat Edgar Barbary in the heavyweight division. I thought about Nathan Hawthorne, but, I think he's too advanced for me to start calling him a prospect. I mean, that's a guy who should be fighting or will be fighting for a title in the next fight. So, I really thought Dylan Ludwig deserved it. Next up, I wanted to talk to you guys about what I thought was Fight of the Year. And for me, this was difficult because there was a lot of great fights, including Cam Spencer's fight against Joe Grant, who flew all the way over from Miami to fight Cam in Los Angeles. But I had to go with, a fight that made me feel like it was the manifestation of what I thought FightersRep would become at some point, right? And I want to use this fight to springboard into 2024 because this thing was everything, man. This thing had everything in it. And that fight was Jason the Gator Granado versus Isaac De La Paz. Listen, you had to be there to feel the energy of this fight. You had to be there to feel the buildup of this fight. Neither of these guys was going to back down. And during the fight, I swear to you guys, the hair on the back of my neck was standing up as I heard a massive crowd on each side, one for each guy, try to drown each other out, cheering for their man. It was Gator, Gator, Gator. It was Isaac, 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 and it did not stop. And the intensity of this fight was one of the few craziest moments of my life as a promoter, I swear. And the fact that Granado kept landing big shots, and the fact that De La Paz kept getting up made this fight even more interesting. First round, Granado did really well, got the knockdown. Second round, De La Paz came back, made it a much closer round. And in the third round, he got off the deck against Granado. He got up again. He was coming after him. You could see both guys were tired, but really digging deep. And then Granado lands what I thought was probably also the knockout of the year with that walk-off uppercut he landed to finish that fight. I mean, just a spectacular fight, spectacular crowd, amazing action, great build-up, and these are two guys, right, that I think are both way better because of this fight, which is the goal at Fighters Rep, right? I'm trying to give guys fights that I think will develop them and prepare them for the next level. And this is one that certainly did. And Isaac De La Paz looked like an absolute stud in his last fight after this one. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see both guys in the Lions Den again in 2024. They're both competing on March 2nd, so definitely get your tickets to Fighters Rep. They're not going to be fighting each other, but I see these guys at some point fighting each other again because that was just too good, man. Too good. Now, before we continue with Fighters of the Year, and there's going to be two of them, I want to ask you guys to please, again, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and join the channel or get some merchandise. By joining or getting merchandise or dropping a super chat, you help me continue to build this channel and this promotion for the fighters. Listen, I'm coming out of pocket for this. Anything that this business makes is reinvested right back into it, right back into these fighters, and trying to give them the best venue we could possibly give them to continue to show the world that we're the best striking show on earth and that they're the best strikers on earth. So if you want to support the fighters, you want to support the brand, that's how you do so. So I know in the original video, I completely forgot, right, that Jason Gator Granado had actually fought at the beginning of this year. For whatever reason, I thought it was last year. But then he kind of reminded me, yeah, I fought at the beginning of the year. I said, oh my God, I thought we only had you once this year. We've actually had you twice. And in the first fight, this guy went out there against a guy who had something like 4 times the amount of amateur fights he had. And mind you, much respect to him, David Fisher. He moved up a couple weight classes to take the fight. But Granado fought him with, again, something like a fourth of the experience. It was actually concerning to me. I had to reach out to Cody Sessions, shout out to him, Gator Granado's coach at Squirrel Muay Thai. And I had to have a conversation with him, tell him, look, I got this guy, but he's got a lot of experience, man. And unless you're confident in your guy, I'm not going to make this fight, man. This one's 100% up to you here. Tell me what you think. And, that is kind of the way I communicate with the coaches all the time. They have to approve the fight. But, man, Cody, wanted this fight. There was, no hesitation. He said, Jason has not seen this style. This is a style I want him to face. Let's make this fight happen. I said, bam, okay, let's make the fight happen. We did it. The guys, signed the dotted line. They went in there, and Jason put on one of the best championship performances in capturing the super lightweight title at Fighters Rep that I've ever seen in my entire life. Running through his opponent like a buzzsaw in the first round and getting a spectacular finish, man. And wow, I mean, Jason Granado just basically has finished every single opponent at Fighters Rep. Only one guy has gone to the third round with him, and that was the Fight of the Year candidate we talked about with Isaac De La Paz. And another guy, I think, made it to the beginning of the second round at some point. But this kid's an absolute killer and definitely one of our Fighters of the Year. And then obviously defended his belt in the Fight of the Year candidate that we talked about versus De La Paz, and also landed the knockout of the year, in my opinion, with that walk-off uppercut in that fight. So congrats to Jason Granado. My opinion, man, once again, Fighter of the Year at Fighters Rep, And the other guy I want to give the grace to, right, give the award to, our second Fighter of the Year, who I definitely need to recognize, is a guy who made a big splash coming onto the scene. He took on a former champion in Christian Zoller in his debut in the Lions Den and captured the super middleweight title and then defended it in spectacular fashion against a very tough Dylan Ludwig, and basically halted, the train that was Dylan Ludwig. And so big shout out to Joseph Parker out of House of Champions. Got a belt in 2023, with a dominant performance over Christian Zoller, pulled away as the fight continued towards the 5th round, and then stopped Dylan Ludwig, who is our prospect of the year. Again, a fantastic fight. Showed a fantastic, skill set. Just very tough. Looks like he's got unlimited endurance. Extremely rangy. I mean, very similar to Jason Granado, if I must say. Long, wiry body type. And these guys are just an absolute problem. So big shout out to our 2 fighters of the year. Joseph Parker out of House of Champions. And once again, Jason Granado, man, who's, it seems like year after year is Fighter of the Year at Fighters Rep out of Squirrel Muay Thai. Hey, Knuckleheads, tell me what you think in the comment section below. If you agree or if you disagree, I'd love to hear it. And anyone you feel like, should have been included in this conversation, drop them below. I will say a runner-up for Fighter of the Year was David Marquez, right? Before I let you go, I want to say that David Marquez, the death dealer. But, I kind of edged it for Parker and Granado because they not only captured the title and defended it, whereas Marquez, won a close fight with Nathan Hawthorne and then was able to capture the title in spectacular fashion a couple events later against Mariano Corona. So that's why we did what we did here. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, and get your tickets to Fighters Rep at FightersRep.com.